He disobeyed a direct order. What happened next was erased from the records. Major Charles Carpenter flew his B-24 Liberator over the jungles of Cambodia in 1944. His target, an enemy base. But when he arrived, he saw something that made him change course. It was an orphanage. He didn't drop his bombs. And when his commanding officers found out, they threw the book at him. But before we tell you what happened next, let us tell you a bit about the man who became known as America's most wanted deserter. Carpenter was born in Texas in 1919. At the age of 18, he joined the U.S. Army Air Corps. In less than 2 years, he was shipped out to the South Pacific, where he flew transport and troop carrier missions. By late 1943, he was flying B-24 Liberators with the 466th Bombardment. Group stationed on the island of Biak, his job was to fly his plane into BH, Japanese-controlled territory, and then bomb the living daylight out of anything that moved. This was during World War II, and Carpenter wasn't just any pilot. He was a very good one. In fact, by January 1944, he had completed more combat missions than anyone else in his group. That made him a prime candidate for a special mission. On January 17, 1944, Carpenter and his crew took off in their Liberator. They were to fly to an area south of the Japanese base at Truk, which was heavily defended by anti-aircraft guns and fighters. Once they dropped their bombs, they were to head back to base. Simple enough, right? Carpenter knew the mission was dangerous, but he also knew he was a good pilot and would be able to handle anything the Japanese could throw at him. Little did he know that this mission would forever change his life. When Carpenter arrived at the target, he saw that it was a small village, not the military installation he was expecting. And then he saw something that made his blood run cold. Children. The plane was already at low altitude and moving fast. So Carpenter only had seconds to make a decision. He could release his bombs and destroy the village, or he could turn away and risk the wrath of his superiors. He decided to spare the village. Carpenter turned the plane around and headed back to base without dropping his bombs. When he landed, he was ordered to report to his commanding officer. Carpenter knew he was in trouble, but he didn't know how much trouble until he was called to a meeting with General MacArthur. The general was furious. How could Carpenter have disobeyed a direct order? He should have bombed the village no matter what. Carpenter tried to explain that it was just a village and that there were children, but MacArthur wasn't having it. He accused Carpenter of cowardice and insubordination. And then he did something unheard of. He stripped Carpenter of his rank and gave him a dishonorable discharge. Then he did something even more shocking. He ordered Carpenter's plane to be shot down over the target, so that the pilot could die trying to complete his mission. Now you're probably thinking that this is where the story gets a happy ending, and Carpenter manages to escape death yet again, but it doesn't. In fact, things get much worse. Carpenter's plane was shot down and he was killed instantly. His co-pilot managed to parachute out just in time. But he was captured by the Japanese and spent the rest of the war in a prison camp. After Carpenter's death, his commanding officers did something that was unheard of at the time. They erased all records of his actions from the official documents. This meant that his family would receive no official explanation for his death, and his name would be cleared only after the war ended. After the war, Carpenter's family began searching for answers. They wanted to know why their father and husband had been treated so badly. They eventually found out that his plane had been shot down because of a mistake. The military had sent him to the wrong target. In the end, Major Charles Carpenter became known as America's most wanted deserter. Even though he had simply bombed a village accidentally, his story is a reminder that even in war, there are some things that are right and some things that are wrong. Carpenter may have been a soldier, but he was also a human being. And in the end, it was his humanity that won out. Did you like this story?
Wow.
If so, give us a thumbs up and stay tuned for more stories just like this. Thanks for watching. See you next time.